Welcome to Spider-Verse Minute, the tri-weekly podcast where we watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1 minute at a time. I'm Caroline Slater.
And I'm her brother Sean.
And today we are talking about minute 58. It begins with Kingpin's wife and son driving away and ends a minute later with the page turning to see the Hudson Valley bus.
What did you title this minute?
Okay, it's kind of two titles, but it felt appropriate. So I've titled this, Why the Collider? / antagonist motivation.
Yeah, I'm glad that we finally get like concrete motivation on why Kingpin is doing this and like what the whole deal with the what the whole deal with the motivator is. No, not the motivator. He doesn't have one of those. What the deal with the collider is.
Mm-hmm. And it's a very like, I don't know if relatable is the right word.
It's relatable. It humanizes him. It's
at least a relatable feeling.
Yeah.
Don't know if everyone would be like, well, yes, I'd totally do that. But be like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it.
Yeah. Let's talk about the ending of this flashback. Or, like, I guess it's a flashback / memory. Yeah, it's a flashback.
It's the way they stylize it.
Yeah. It's
very memory-ish as opposed to a flashback. I just want to say, this movie does not pull punches like at all when it comes to these deaths.
Yeah, like the car
oh my gosh,
gets actual it gets damaged.
We even see though the truck hit the car.
Yeah, but like
it's not like you see headlights and it cuts away. No, we see it get hit and it start tumbling, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
And the car like gets squished and whatnot. It's only on screen for like it's one of those things where they only have it on screen for like a frame or two. Mm-hmm. But the hood gets crumpled, the glass shatters. They either simulated or drew the damage to the car that was caused by the truck.
Yeah,
and it goes flying.
Yeah, no, that thing flies. Like, you don't see anything super graphic. Like, you don't see any blood or stuff. Like, very similar to Peter when he got crushed. Like, you don't see anything super graphic. But it's very graphic.
Yeah, and again, they hide the graphic parts of it, like what would be the really, really graphics parts really well, where it doesn't feel like they're deliberately trying to hide it. It just feels like, oh, this is how this should go.
Mm-hmm. It's very in your face with the violence, sort of.
And then once it cuts back to
Kingpin's hand.
Yeah, the current day, and Kingpin breaks another pen.
He just shatters his pen.
Yeah, he must have a lot of those. I
don't know.
Maybe he needs like a steel pen or something that he can't break so easily.
I think he would just bend it.
And I like how he's got his facial expression changes ever so slightly, where it's got this almost like nice / sad, like I guess nostalgic would be the right thing, of him just kind of like remembering his family. And then it changes to this sort of like, he's like, oh, like once he sees Doc Ock's hand claw things reaching over the edge of the balcony, he's like, oh, gotta look tough for her. And so he gets this like determined, scary look on his face.
I'm glad you brought up Liv's. How did Liv get up here? Because her arms aren't that long.
Yeah, and like when we saw that pan out of the balcony, or it was very out. Like, it jutted out very far from the edge of the cliff, I guess, that they're on. And so, like, did she jump from a tree up to there and then be like, okay, gotta catch my breath, and then I'll climb up all nice and easily?
Maybe she used a tree, but, like, we don't actually see where the other arms are. And I'm like, how did she get up there?
She pulled, like, old cartoons where they just pulled the tree back a little bit and, like, let it shot, and she slingshot herself up there. And then, like, grabbed onto the, something lower in the cliff and just had to climb up a little bit. And then she crawled over the edge.
Yeah, and then when she comes back up, or when she's finally there, I don't know if you ever noticed this detail before. I never did. I just thought Tombstone immediately pulled the guns. Tombstone actually glances at Kingpin before he pulls the guns.
Yeah.
I never noticed that before.
And then, like, later on in the minute, when Kingpin glances back over at Tombstone, like, how does Tombstone see that?
I actually wrote down in my notes, can Tombstone see King's eyes? I'm like how? If he can. Does he have X-ray vision we don't know about?
Yeah,
what's going on here?
He's too far back, and Kingpin's way too massive for him to be able to, like, see that.
There is no way you can see his head. And it's not even like his head's, like, up on his shoulders. Like, he's hunched over.
Yeah. Maybe, like, it was just a coincidence, and Tombstone was just, like, tired of being choked, so he's like, alright, I'll put these away now. Like, that was how long he was able to hold his breath.
or maybe they're just on the same wavelength. It's like, you know what? I know, I'm vibing with him. I get it.
or maybe there's, like, just a person, like, strapped to Kingpin's back who's actually giving him directions, and it's just like, he's just like, now. And it's just like a little, like, person, like a little, like a baby carrier, but on backwards, and he's just, like, waving there, like, wee. But yeah, it was a great little look over, and then, but Doc Ock doesn't notice it, or not doesn't notice it, she doesn't react until he pulls out the guns, and then it's that, like, whoosh, shoot over. Yeah, and, you know, to jump back a little bit, back to Liv's, to Doc Ock's and Kingpin's conversation. I like how they were able to make her intimidating, even though she's so much smaller. Well, even though everyone's so much smaller than Kingpin. But even, like,
everyone's an ant compared to Kingpin.
Yeah. They did a good job, like, having her, you know, stand with the tentacles.
Yeah, she is really intimidating, and as cool as her design is, I think a lot of the intimidation really does come from the voice actress.
Yeah, and before we move on to her voice actress, since we forgot to do it when she was first introduced, when we got the whole reveal.
There was a lot happening
we
during
got
the
a
reveal.
little excited.
We got really distracted by it. Like, ooh! Like, we got really into the reveal.
But I want to talk about her design again, just a little bit more here real quick.
The giant beehive is what you want to talk about, right?
Yes, definitely. That's exactly what it is.
I knew it!
No. I really like the way her tentacles just, like, kind of move a little bit constantly. Like, they're always adjusting things, and, like, you can, it feels like it's actually doing something. Because it's like, shifting for her weight and just, like, moving around ever so slightly, and, like, the ends of them kind of bounce around a little bit at times, and it's just really cool. Instead of having, like, it feels very, like, alive, versus Kingpin, who's just like there and doesn't move at all except for, like, his mouth.
Yeah, I think we said this during the reveal, but, like, her tentacles feel very organic. Like, they feel like they're not just attachments to her, they're almost like a part of her. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's a very cool effect. Like, it adds more to her.
Yeah, I like it a lot. And speaking of, well, yeah, and then her voice actress also does a very good job here of balancing the, like, I think we touched on it before when she first came out, or when she did her first reveal, but, like, that switch that she does from, like, kind of dopey scientist to very intimidating evil villain is, like, really, really good.
Yes, and we talked about it in the reveal, like, how such a good switch is. This switch is probably not as strong or, like, as big, but there's a great switch here. Because I need to talk about these lines. They're amazing. So, first off, she's very calm when you can tell she is not scared by Kingpin, which I love.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, you're nothing to me.
Of neither of them. And she's like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna, you know, it almost feels like the only reason she kind of goes up a little bit is so she doesn't have to look up.
I think that's honestly what it is. I think it's just like, look, I don't want to strain my neck. I don't know how long this conversation is gonna be. It almost could be like, this might be me looking a little too much into it, but it's almost like a power move where it's like, I'm not going to look up at you, you're going to meet me at eye level.
Yeah.
Buster. But what I love is she speaks very calmly to Kingpin. Like, Kingpin is clearly mad. Is like, I killed Spider-Man. Why do I now
have two of them?
Why did I just see two of them? And she's just very calm. I'm like, oh, three actually. But then, this is amazing. She does a positive spin on it.
Yeah.
She's like, no, this is good. It means my collider works. Like, she's like a parent, like, trying to calm someone down almost. She's like, no, think of the good things. This means my collider works. Like, calm down. This is good. And then it gets really sinister. And the music helps with this, especially at this line. And it's like, all we have to do is kill a couple of spiders. And I'm like, oh, I hate that. That's terrifying.
Yeah, and like the way she says it is so, yeah. Ugh.
It's so nonchalant, calm, and the music behind it does this like slight turn into a very sinister tone. The actress just does such a good job at finding the way to balance it and give this character such a cool dynamic compared to Kingpin, where I feel like Kingpin is either, well, no, that's not true. He has layers to him too, obviously, but his deliveries I feel could kind of fall into like, they're all almost sort of extremes in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and hers are much more, it's like, that could be goofy or sinister, and I don't like that I can't tell.
And speaking of her voice actress, she's portrayed by Kathryn Hahn, who had her first film role in 1999 in Flushed, where she just played the role of woman, but then had her breakout role in Crossing Jordan, playing the character Lily, and she appeared in the show alongside Aaron Davis's voice actor Mahershala Ali. She was in 104 of the 117 episodes in that. And then she plays some other recurring characters throughout. One of her more recent known, I mean, I guess this was like 4 years ago at this point, but she played Jennifer Barkley in Parks and Rec, which was a recurring character in the latter seasons of that. And then most recently, she played Raquel in Transparent for season. She had a main role in seasons 2 and 3 and a recurring role in season 1. And she's been nominated for various television awards and acting awards for her work as a comedy actress in Parks and Rec, Afternoon Delight, Transparent, Captain Fantastic, I Love Dick, and Private Life, which were all within the past 6 or so years. And she has a number of, film credits as well, she's had.
Kills this role.
Yeah, I enjoy I've only seen her in Parks and Rec and this, but I enjoy her in both. Like in Parks and Rec, she also plays kind of a pseudo-villain, pseudo-antagonist.
So she has a type.
Yeah, it's this like, she's very pragmatic in that, the character she plays in that show. You're like not really supposed to like her, but she does a really good job of making you not like her in a good way.
Yeah,
in that, you dislike the character, not the actress.
Yeah.
But yeah, she does a good job in this, and like it's also really nice because it's one of those things where I didn't realize it was her until I looked at it, and then like you watch it, you're like, oh yeah, that's totally her. But then like 20 seconds later, I like forget that it's her again. So she does a good job of, I feel like, not sounding like her.
That's a sign of a great actor, actually. There's a few actors that I feel can do that consistently. Some people are like, oh, I can't do that with that actor. I'm like, I always see the actor. I'm like, okay, I get it. But for me, one of them is actually Tom Hiddleston. For me,
yeah.
This voice actress does such a good job with Liv and Doc Ock in general that like this might be my favorite iteration of Doc Ock.
Yeah, and one of the like, I was watching some of the other just behind the scenes stuff, and one of the things they said in that I hadn't realized before was that they actually had a male Doc Ock for the first like year of production.
Really?
And then they switched it to having her be female. And
Did they say why?
No.
No.
I don't know if it just wasn't really working with him or not, but I like this iteration of the character.
I wonder if maybe like, you know what, well, something's not fitting right. Let's try something, and maybe it just clicked.
Yeah, I mean, like it could have been one of those things where like they didn't find like a voice actor right away, but then someone was like, well, what if we had Catherine do it? Because that seemed to be kind of a recurring thing that they kept saying, was just like, oh yeah, we just like, called so and so up and was like, hey, you want to do this? And they were like, sure. So it could have, I could see them doing something like that, being like, oh, maybe if we get her in, we can get her to work on that.
Yeah. If we get any sequel to this movie, I hope, and if Liv is in it, I mean, who knows? I hope so. I want to see more of this version of Doc Ock.
Yeah, I kind of want her backstory.
I don't even I don't even know if I fully I don't even know if I want a full backstory. Like, I almost kind of want like a Joker vibe with her, in the sense it's like she like keeps changing her backstory. I feel like she'd be that.
Yeah.
Or like she'll change like the little details here and there just to see if you're like keeping up.
I also like kind of in that sort of intimidating factor as well, when Kingpin like turns around and leaves after she tells him everything. I love how she's just like, she looks a little silly floating there.
Really?
Like it's a little silly, but like, and I don't know. I think like if I was there in person, I would be terrified. It's a mix between like cool and silly. Like if you just kind of like glance at it, in a still, it's just a little like weird how she's just kind of like hanging there.
Okay.
But like when she's in motion, it's intimidating.
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
just
what
when
it
you look
is,
at a still image of it, it's just like, oh, she's just kind of there.
Okay, I get what you mean.
But I also like, she has her like that villain hand clasp where it's like, just her fingertips are touching each other.
and then she's like, our collider, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And she's like, oh boy, you do not turn on me.
And it's like she's more like, watch it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. Again, like, she does not fear Kingpin, and I love that.
Yeah, like she says it and doesn't really care if he hears it or not.
Yeah, it's like kind of under her breath, but also not really.
Yeah.
Like, she's ready to throw hands if he turns back around. And I'm glad this is my last note, but I really want to bring it up, and I love that you kind of brought it up. When Kingpin turns away, we don't see him fully turn.
Yeah, he starts to turn, and then they cut to seeing his face again.
And I think a big reason for that is that I don't think anyone wants to.
They don't want us to see the little person, the person attached to his back.
Mr. Meeseeks. They don't want to see Mr. Meeseeks. That's it. No, it's just, I think it'd be very weird. First off, I don't know if they fully knew like how wide he was from profile.
Well, it was one of those things where they make him however big he needs to be. He doesn't like have a consistent size. Yeah. In the movie, or like he doesn't have a predefined size.
Yeah, like the Beast in the animated version of Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
But yeah, but we never see him from profile, and I'm like, I feel like that would be really disturbing.
I also think that would take away from him a bit, like,
right?
It makes him more intimidating whenever, like, every time we see him, he's not really fully in shot. For the most part, there's a couple, that doesn't always happen, but...
This is one of the few times where he's, like, fully in shot.
The one last thing I wanted to touch on was just the page turn to the bus that we get at the very end.
I forgot about that again.
Yeah, and it's, like, again, such a cool... transition. Like it's nice too that they don't have the like page turning sound effect. It's just like, oh, a page turns. Yeah. And it's like another really cool transition that they use here that I really like.
Yeah, it's such a nice transition. I think it's the only time they use this transition.
That I can remember, yeah.
That I can remember. We might see it later. Or we're forgetting from a previous minute. It is.
I know it hasn't come up in a previous minute.
Yeah, but it's such a cool. It's just cool. I'd say cool too much, but it really is. It's smooth, and it does feel like, I don't know. This is a very like comic book moment, I guess, where it's like you find out the motivations of the
the bad guy.
The villain, yeah. Then you're like, oh my gosh, like, I know when I get to that point in comic books, I'm like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And you turn the page, and it's a completely different scene, and you're like, eh.
It feels just like that. Like, okay, we gave you the villain's bit, so let's go back to our heroes. So that was the last thing I had to say.
Good thing to end on. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us today. Join us on Wednesday as we find out who's on this mysterious bus.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.